to my channel. Oh, no. Thanks so much for being here. Today I'm joined by two very special guests. The first guest, his name is Oliver Damocles, and you just met him. He did our little introduction. And then my second guest is just off camera, and his name is Yako Ravioli. He's got herpes. He also really doesn't like to be picked up, so we're gonna let him hang out for a little bit. Up until last year, I filmed pretty consistently with the boys around, which is why so many bloopers from especially the beginning portion of last year have me yelling at them. But for the last couple months, I have pretty consistently put them in a back room. None of the doors in my house close except for one, fun fact. So I put them in the one room that closes fully, and they kind of hide back there. And they really hate it, especially now that we're filming more consistently. They really hate it. So between them hating me now and y'all mentioning them whenever they appear in a video, I thought I'd do a bit of a ramble and an introduction for both of them. I have their little hairbrush here, so they might come back up and ask to be scratched, but it's also kind of hit or miss because I would rather them relax and chill and not attack every standing piece of equipment I have. Then you see them, so I will try and get them to come do some purrs for you. We'll just give him a minute. You can probably hear him purring, so he'll probably get warmed up and come up here. So Oliver, the big orange guy that you saw, he is 3 years old now, 3.5. I got him when I was 21. Got him in 2021. I was in college at the time, and every doctor that I had encouraged me to get a cat or a dog or something. They wanted me to have an ESA because I was living alone at the time, and I was severely depressed and going through a lot of mental health issues and physical issues for that matter. And so my school approved me having an emotional support animal, and I think I got approved, and then I went and had like brunch, and then was like, yeah, I guess I'll go get one today. I feel like that's a good thing to do. And I've grown up with pets. I grew up with dogs and cats and hamsters and fish and all sorts of pets, and I grew up riding horses and just being around animals all the time, so it didn't seem like a really big feat to have another animal. And I was really lonely at the time, and so it actually seemed really exciting to get a cat, because I knew with my work schedule and my school schedule that I wouldn't be able to have a dog, especially around campus. So I went to the Humane Society, the local Humane Society, and I walked in. I think I had stopped at a pet store before and just gotten just a bunch of random stuff for a cat, and figured I'd fill in the blanks later, but kind of got the necessities. I went to the Humane Society and walked in, and they're like, oh, how can I help you? And I'm like, can I tell you what I want and you tell me if you have it? And they were like, oh, this isn't Arby's, but like, sure, queen, go off. And I said, I'd really like a cat, preferably a kitten, just so I can raise it. That is like the most loving, lovable, like wants to be around people cat you've ever met. And there was like 3 or 4 people in the building that weren't helping anybody, and they all simultaneously pointed and said Cheeto Puff. And so I went over and I met Cheeto Puff. If you hear any clicking, they're inside of my coffee table right now. Slay. So I went over and I met Cheeto Puff. Puff. I immediately went over and just fell in love with him. He was this teeny tiny little guy who had big paws and big ears, and he had like, they were like, oh, he has a motor in him, like he just keeps purring. And I held him for probably about 15 minutes. I was just enamored, and I was like, well, like my mom would kill me if I just immediately, you know, took this cat without meeting any of the others. So I kind of walked around and like met some of the older cats, and like I think looking back at it now, I would have loved to have like an older cat that needed like a single family home, but it wasn't really what I needed emotionally at the time. And I think now I'd really love going forward to adopt older cats that just kind of need little homes. So there was a couple that I felt really bad, and I was like, I kind of feel like I'm the person that should take them, but I basically was like, but I gotta take Cheeto Puff. Like I love him. I just immediately fell in love with him. And so I went up and I told them, I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and adopt him. So they started putting together the papers, and as they're putting together the papers, this like kid's coming over and look at him, and he's like obviously like preparing to be like, I'm gonna take him. And I was like, that's my cat, I'm sorry. And I like took him out of the kennel and was like, I'm gonna hold my cat now. So I felt really bad, but I was like, I got him because he's just so precious. Fun fact, he was I think he was a couple months old when I got him, obviously because they don't adopt out, but he was only in the shelter for 90 minutes before I got him, because one of the workers there had taken him home for her son, and the kitty cat and her son didn't really bond, and so she'd had him for a couple days and then took him back to the shelter an hour and a half before, and then I walked in and met him, and he's my best friend, so that's very slay. I didn't know what I would name him, but I knew Cheeto Puff was not the name for him, although that's his OG name, and when he pisses me off I call him Cheeto Puff to send him back to the shelter. But he was screaming so much in the car, and I just automatically called him Oliver, or I called him Ollie, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I grew up loving Oliver and Company, so he's my little why should I worry guy. So anyway, he and I became very fast friends. Here, do you want some of this? He and I became very fast friends. But when I was in school, as I said, I was really not in a great mental spot. And one of my, okay, he's hurting me now. One of my most, okay, now he's biting me. Ow, 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 ow. One of my biggest, like, coping mechanisms, or I think maybe just things that I was doing at the time, was, and I still am, a chronic overworker. And so I was doing, I want to say like 22 hours of school, while having 3 jobs at the same time. And so I was truly working like 16-hour days, like genuinely from like 6 a.m. until like midnight. It was really bad. I had a single dorm at the time, and because maintenance would just kind of let themselves in, and I didn't want him running, I would have to keep him in my room. And so he kind of, like, he was very loving, but he became very isolated, and I was so depressed and tired, and I would come home, and he would just be begging for me to play with him, and I would be so, like, I would just be weeping. I was so exhausted, and I had to be up so early the next day. And I'd get, like, very minimal sleep, so I think maybe I expedited the process a little bit of him becoming a bit of an aggressive cat, and specifically aggressive when I am not around. So when people watch him for me every day that I'm gone, he'll get progressively more aggressive. But as much as I made him an aggressive cat, he also is a very big reason that I'm alive. And I owe that to him, and him being so loving even when I wasn't there, or when I wasn't really taking time to be with him as I should have, or taking time for my But when he started to get more aggressive, probably a couple months in, I realized like I probably should get him a friend, especially since I was close to graduating and I didn't want to have an aggressive cat forever. If I was going to have an aggressive cat, I would rather have him bonded to another one. Typically after a year it's a little harder for them to bond. At least that's what I was told, like you want to do it when they're younger. So a coworker of mine at the time had a farm cat who kept getting pregnant and she had just had a litter, and so she offered for me to come over and check out the litter. And I remember being like, God, that one's kind of ugly. Which is so mean. He's so handsome now. I love him so much. He's just sitting on the other couch and looking at me. I remember being like, oh, he's kind of ugly, but I did want a boy. And he's like one of the only boys that's not taken. And so I was playing with the other girls. I was like, they were so cute and whatever, and they were so tiny. I picked him up and held him while we were talking for a bit, and he was screaming, you know, just like, ah, like my son. So I was petting him. He's like on my lap, crawling up me, and he fell asleep with his paws up and his nails in my shirt, and he fell asleep like that right here on my shoulder. And I was like, fuck, I think this is my cat. So a couple weeks later, when he was a little closer to ready, I came and picked him up, and I think Ollie liked him from the beginning, but I was very nervous because he was so tiny when I got him, and Ollie's huge. Ollie's big and fat, and has always been really big and fat, and Bo, it was like this tiny when I got him. So I had to keep him in a kennel for a while I wasn't there, and kind of trying to make them acclimate, but I really like this. And when I first got him, I got like the little gravy packets that you can, like cat gravy essentially, for like if their tummy's hurt or if they're younger and they still need broth, or they still need something that's not just solid food. And I got those, and the only time that I wasn't really worried about Ollie playing too hard with him, or actually like not hurting him, because he was just so big, was when they were eating. So I put the gravy out and they both would just sit silently by their bowls and eat, and it made me so happy that now I still give them gravy for dinner. I will put it on their dry food just because it makes me so happy. But now Oliver is 3 and Yako is 2. Yako I named because The Count of Monte Cristo is my favorite movie, and I love it, and I thought that it was very fitting that I would be Edmond Dantes and that he would be Yako, my trusty friend and helper for life, and that he was my little guy. So and then Ravioli is just because I met a cat a couple weeks before that's name. They were brothers, and they were named Gnocchi and Ravioli. And I was like, God, those are really cute names for cats. And I wanted to name my next cat Ravioli. And then I met Yako, and I was like, he's Yako. Like, I have to name him Yako. And so that's kind of why I did that. As a little middle name homage to the name I would have given him. Oliver, his middle name is Damocles. Because when I first got him the first night, he woke me out of my sleep by jumping on my face from my headboard. And I thought that it was very fitting to Dante, hello, the Damocles' sword. I was like, he's my proverbial sword that I have put in my range to kill me. So now they're my best friends. They hate my guts and love me. It's very weird. Particularly Yako. I'll grab so you can see him. He has a bit of a weaker immune system, which is why herpes. He has herpes. My vet said that pretty much all cats get herpes. She said only the weak ones keep it. very nice. There's only very certain things that he will be vocal about. Oliver just screams all the time for anything. Yako will really only meow if he's very hungry, or I'm like getting food and he's acknowledging that he's hungry. Same for water. He'll acknowledge he's thirsty while I'm getting him water. Or there's a singular cabinet he likes to get into. I think because there's a hidey hole under the kitchen sink. And so he will meow if that door is not open, which I keep shut. And he has learned how to open. And I fear if I child lock it, he will just scream until I open it. Jacopo's also the one. He's the one who I came home one day and I thought I heard like a song, like it sounded like there was music playing from the back of the house. I thought maybe someone was mowing or something. And I go to the back and I start freaking out because he had, my water heater is boxed in, but there's no top to the water heater, which I didn't know. And he used to sit on the top of it. I never realized he was just balancing on a ledge, a very small ledge. I thought that there was like a top to the water heater box. In fact, there was not. So while I was at work one day, he fell in. And I don't know how long he'd been in there, but he did fall in. And I had to, my neighbor had just moved in. And I don't even think I'd met him yet. I think maybe I'd waved at him in passing, like I'd seen that he existed. And I ran over and I knocked on his door and he was like, hi. And I was like, hi, so good to meet you. Can you help me? My cat fell into my water heater, because I was freaking out. And if I'm being completely honest, the only concept of that happening that I had was the Cheetah Girls, when that dog fell in the well. And I was like, I don't know what to do but sing. Sing and put a rope down. It really was fine. I just had to unscrew the boards, and now I know how to do that. These are also the cats that jump on my gas stove, and I get very angry about it. But while I'm not here, I wasn't here one day for work, and they jumped down from the gas stove and turned on the gas somehow. And so I had to call my gas people and ask them to come turn off the gas and make sure there wasn't a leak or anything else, because it had been running for probably at least 30, 45 minutes. And I was like, good. I had to like fan out. It was great. It was awesome. But now I have child locks on it. You know, everything's a learning experience. And they have definitely taught me how to be an adult. That's for sure. But it is nice, because once you have one, it's a lot easier to have two. See, he doesn't really like being picked up, but there was a portion of time where we fostered a little kitten that someone found next door. She came over, one of my neighbors, and she was like, I know you like cats because you feed the cats outside. Can you take this kitten that I found a couple days ago? And I said, sure. And so Jacopo became very, very, very fast friends with him. And at the time, his name was, what was his name? I don't remember what we called him, but his name now is Jasper. I can't remember what we called him. That's so sad. He's got little questies. He's a good boy. But he stayed with us for a couple months. And at the same time, my best friend was living with me for a couple months. And they have a cat named Boomy. And so there was 4 cats in the house. And that was a fucking nightmare. But I think we all learned a little something. And I learned that Jacopo, as good as he is of a little brother, would be a fantastic big brother. And he was a fantastic big brother. And I'm always so proud of him for that. Isn't he so handsome? This is the herpy eye. Like mother, like son. He doesn't really like to be held. So anyway, those are my cats. I'm very grateful to come home at the end of a Would you like to say goodbye? Come here. And with that,